The Weeknd dropped his final album, Hurry Up Tomorrow, on Friday. This album has been absolutely on repeat for me and ends the trilogy in a perfect way to After Hours and Dawn FM. Before we jump into my tier list review, we're going to break down this track list one by one. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe to both of my channels. I have a Discord, join that. Also follow me over on Twitch. We're streaming over there, reacting to stuff all the time. Obviously, this album has a ton of tracks, which was pretty risky for the final, Weeknd album. You don't know how that's going to turn out when artists make long track lists of an hour and 20 something minutes, but it just ended up being really rewarding and hitting because there is a lot of amazing tracks on here, starting with track 1, Wake Me Up, which has a nice intro that kind of builds up the hype and makes you enter a world slightly because Abel's voice just sounds so elevating. It sounds like you're at a concert pretty much throughout this whole track list, but ultimately this whole song turns into an 80s 90s synth pop just smash. It's a recipe that The Weeknd's gone for multiple times now ever since Blinding Lights, and I just like these type of pop songs. He didn't shy away from 4 or 5 minute just very long, well produced tracks that are very cinematic, but that goes right into track 2, Cry For Me, which is definitely a banger and one of the most replayable on the track list for me. I think The Weeknd's voice just sounds vintage. This is just a great hit. Also, the way that the synth just kind of dabbles in there and works with the bass is just super fire. I like kind of the minimal hip-hop influence throughout this project on a few of the beats. This one, for instance, I think has Metro Boomin on it. So for I Can't Effing Sing, I'm just going to put this at C because I actually don't mind this kind of voice note being on the album as it transitions into Sao Paulo, which is definitely a song that has grown on me. Since it's been a single, I've finally heard, the full version. I think in context of the album, I'll put, this one at B because my goodness, is it a banger. It's just a song that you feel like you need to get lost and all messed up on drugs at a nightclub and have a crazy action adventure movie based around it or something. It's weird how this song's kind of bracketed off by some interludes on this album. It kind of gives this song its own kind of special moment only at the beginning of the track list. This isn't a sound or anything that really happens anywhere else on the track list. It of course has Anita on it as well with another language on there, and it definitely has some Brazilian nightclub mix to it, and it's actually kind of fun. And then we get Until We're Skin and Bones, which is this weird warping portal noise. I'm not really sure the purpose it serves. I'm gonna throw that again at C because I don't mind it being on the album. I like the way it's all synthy and weird and sounds like that. Maybe it's just taking you out of that sound that we were just in because we're going to the complete opposite lane with Baptized in Fear. Maybe that's all it means. But Baptized in Fear is so heavily slept on. I'm gonna try to rank these songs within each tier the best I can, but I think Baptized in Fear is one of the best performances on the entire album. You have to have a few of these slower songs, the R&B stuff, but he's like the master at this. This is just perfection right here. The way it is sung, the way the chorus is done, just the overall flow, and then kind of just the darkness of he's seeing his shadows and maybe he's paranoid, he's hearing voices and this type of stuff that just hits deeper and is creepy in a way, but his attention to detail throughout this entire album ends up being like super crazy. I love how Baptized in Fear just sings its way right into Open Hearts with the transition, which is just the infectious pop song. I feel like it's gonna be one of the more like popular songs off the album, that big pop, single. There's a lot of songs where you're just listening to this like, wow, he's just so good, or these song formulas are just so good. They're just smash hits all over this album, and Open Hearts is definitely one of them. I feel like that is going to be one of the more playable songs off there. It has to be an S tier. There's going to be a lot of S tier, so we're gonna have to make some room up there. But then you have Opening Night, which is just really short. In all honesty, I'm gonna have to put this song probably just at B tier. Now it's not on the same level as Sao Paulo. That song is definitely better than it, but if Opening Night is just one short verse, it has a nice cool little beat to it that you wouldn't really expect it. It has the start of a part of a phone call to it, but yeah, it's not really this big song. If it was longer or more finished, I would actually think that I would like it more. Then we have Reflections Laughing, which I've seen some people say this is their favorite. I'm gonna go ahead and say if this is your favorite, I'm calling overrated on it. I still like the track enough to put it in probably B tier. I cannot lie, this is gonna be my biggest hot take. I definitely still like the track, and you have Travis at the end who sounds really drugged out and slowed and reverb and deep voice type of thing, but there's kind of the middle of the song which you have this conversation maybe to The Weeknd or a girl to The Weeknd like on the phone. The intro with the little guitar is super peaceful and sounds like you're in a little garden. Like I like this track. I like it where it is on the track list. I think there's just better stuff out there. I don't find this track overly replayable because the whole structure of the track overall, I feel like this is one you kind of just play with the album. The Travis feature honestly is cool. That has grown on me slightly. I kind of like how unique it is. It's not like your standard Travis verse just slapped on there. The way it's done doesn't really make it my favorite feature. I think there's 2 or 3 better, performances that added to the track list, but really all of them had nice touches on the track list and really belonged to be there. Which on Enjoy the Show, I have to go ahead and put this in S tier. I gotta be honest. I think I'm gonna put it probably to right there for now. You have Future on it, which as a We Still Don't Trust You fan, I loved. Obviously, The Weeknd was on that album like 3-4 times. He was on a lot of the Metro and Future stuff. I thought all of those collabs were amazing. So The Weeknd and Future on a soul sample beat, just getting really deep, especially with that last verse that Abel really punched in. As much as I love the beat, it's one of my favorite beats on this project. It is a little sad. He's talking about the curtains calling. Hopefully enjoyed the effing show for the times I was out there and, not making it past 24, 34. These things he mentions is unfortunately dark at times, but that is also the depth of this project and what really makes it so good and what makes it hit as his final album under the Weeknd. When you have Future melodically singing like that is also something that I've, matured into liking, and I didn't really give the time to, years ago back when I was like in high school. Like I wouldn't listen to melodic Future. I want that hard shit, but I really appreciate tracks like Enjoy the Show. I just got so hyped when I first heard Pluto for the first time. Then we got Given Up on Me. I'm gonna go ahead and slide this into the A tier because this song is quite the journey. Right away from the beginning, as a Logic fan, I recognize the Nina Simone jazz sample is super cool, but it's really melodic, but still kind of has a upbeatness, to it. There's a weird sample chop in the middle that I'm like, whoa, I want them to like do something with this, but maybe he already did it, on the Future track, previously. The second half where the lights dim and it's just the Weeknd and a nice piano. He's not really rapping, but it did kind of remind me of Blue Slides by Schoolboy Q last year. But the picture I get is if you have ever watched La La Land, the musical, one of my favorite movies with Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, the restaurant they're in where they play the piano, it's at the beginning, kind of end of the movie. That's kind of like the setting I'm in when I listen to the second half of this track. You're sitting there and you're like, wow, like this is like impressive. Like everywhere he's gone on this project, everything has just sounded so perfect, you know what I mean? And you just relate to so many different song topics and just feel so many different emotions and sounds throughout this album. It's just like incredible the direction he takes you throughout the track list. You're just constantly distracted no matter if you're at the beginning, middle, or end of this album. I think there's entertaining moments throughout. I can't wait to get there. It's honestly just gonna sneak into A tier. I feel like this type of beat with the drums and sampling he chose would be perfect for Tyler the Creator. But I really like the verse, how he can be braggadocious and he can talk about how he's running up the numbers in the summertime, selling his crib to Madonna, but also talks about just the way the media's kind of tried to control him or the way people have portrayed him and all of that. But I think it's one of the shorter, just nice replayable cuts. And then of course following up is the banger Timeless. I'm gonna have to throw into S tier. Other than Timeless, there wasn't really too much impact the singles had on the rollout to me, or the hype it gave me going in. But honestly, Cardi gave a phenomenal performance with multiple different flow switches and kind of voices he chose to use. I think it was a nice beat and intermediate space for both of these two to collab in, and kind of a hip-hop / pop kind of mash. But honestly, it just sounds like they're kind of having fun and they're just bragging and rapping about typical stuff. And I like that there is a few cuts like this on the album, and it doesn't make Timeless stick out too bad or anything like that. And I feel like I always have another yet banger to go back to, an infinitely replayable track that was like one of my top songs of 2024. Then after that, we have the beautiful Niagara Falls, which has recently just moved up in my S tier because this song I feel like is missing a Drake feature. Unfortunately, I don't think those two are talking anymore nowadays, but honestly, I need to just get in the whip and listen to this one driving around at night. But I just feel like so many of the beats are just right up my alley, the way that the samples work with the drums. I just think the choices that the Weeknd makes when writing and singing, a lot of these choruses are just absolutely gold. He's literally just honestly in this trilogy just been at his peak, and it showed on tracks like Niagara Falls and just so many more on this track list. I like the ending of that track, how it starts to just slowly warm up into Take Me Back to LA, which just back to back is another S tier here. I love how dreamy this kind of pop song is, where you have this kind of drop top riding down LA, scene in your brain when you're listening to this track. And he does a lot of reminiscing, I feel like, on some of this track list, or like maybe I did like that younger version of myself when we used to party and do drugs and go crazy, and we used to have a crazy lifestyle back then. Maybe he's better to himself now or just kind of looks back at his younger self in a certain way clearly on this album, as he talks about time plenty on this project as well. The Weeknd has been number one. It's because songs like Take Me Back to LA are just gonna get infinite plays out of me. Then you have Big Sleep, which is honestly just really epic and cinematic and kind of just sounds like it needs to be used for some movies or something like that, like a castle burning down. I don't really know. And it does a lot of like teasing or, you know, a lot of build up, and it's just kind of this slower song to sit back and play kind of with the album to me. So like a B tier is not really bad in my opinion. I'm not really exactly sure what Big Sleep means, or I haven't really looked in this song like too deeply, but it's just kind of like adds to the denseness and just how kind of cinematic and crazy this album is. I do kind of like these songs, even though there's, you know, not like the most replayable or like favorites to me. Then after that we have Give Me Mercy, which I think is really slept on and also kind of displays how pretty like clean and how just nice and easy to follow along I feel like lyrically this album was, but just kind of the flow choice he has on the chorus is super replayable. This one sounds pretty fresh compared to some of the other kind of pop songs on here. I was really impressed at this point in the track list. We're on track, you know, 17. I'm like, damn, he's still not giving up. He's really this good. Then after that you have Drive, which I'm gonna go ahead and throw into B. You do have to think that a song like that also is a little bit of a story type of song because it's pretty simple. Like it's more of a mental clarity type of thing, or just kind of escaping maybe what's going on in your situation or past or whatever. And I wouldn't really call it like filler, but there's definitely a couple that I don't feel like serve this crazy purpose, you know, on this track list. But still, Drive, when you listen to it, is like overall just a solid song. Nothing really wrong with it. Before the next track, I just want to say that I've rearranged a couple things to just kind of perfect my tier list a little bit more. Then we have The Abyss, which is a nice, honestly, top of B tier for me because I really want to honor the moment that Lana Del Rey had, kind of with her very powerful performance and voice. But Mike Dean, of course, was magic with a lot of the synths. This song kind of builds up with a nice piano in it, but again, I feel like this has so much like diversity throughout it. Like I wouldn't expect that type of feature. I didn't really know it was Lana Del Rey at first. I haven't heard much of her, but a lot of the collabs I've heard from her end up being really good. So I think it's time that I have to check out her music in 2025, honestly. Then you have Red Terror, which is just a display of blasting synths, and just that's kind of sometimes the soundscape of this track list. But I feel like he talks about his youth or kind of his self through a younger scope at times through this project. And Red Terror is alright for me. It kind of sounds like Sao Paulo when it starts off. Also, this song does have this monologue where the voice is mixed really cool with the kind of the effects and panning to it, but it's just kind of monologue to end the track as well. I think this song Red Terror does serve a little bit of storyline purpose like maybe a couple tracks do. Without a Warning is definitely slept on. I feel like it's actually been really replayable or grown on me definitely this weekend for sure, but I really like the drops to it. I think there's a lot of good, you know, beat drops to most of these tracks. If I have to put that song at A, I have to move up The Abyss just slightly with it. I think that evens out the A and B tiers a little bit more. I like how they have the same amount of tracks right now, but kind of like him talking about the crowd screaming his name and giving you that kind of like last performance concert feeling that the first track had and just so many others is really cool to me. And then in Hurry Up Tomorrow, the final song, the outro, is like the most like heartbreaking song to me on this entire project. This song just melts my heart, but it still feels like it's uplifting, and maybe because he talks about how he's done with this path, this chapter of his life. He hopes to go to heaven. That piano just hits the soul. It was the perfect choice. It's the perfect sounding ending. It's just really the perfect song choice overall, and it makes you realize like, wow, this run is done. This song actually perfectly, I guess, loops into his first song ever on his first album, which I have a lot of his old albums to still go to, so hopefully I can react to those in 2025 as well. Just the way he ends the album, how he doesn't want the pain anymore and just hits the highest high note on the project is crazy. It's just hard not to cry. And yeah, it just concluded the trilogy and the Weeknd's career in this phenomenal album. One of the best ever Weeknd albums, or like maybe even the best I've ever heard. I'm still trying to process it, but that's how I want my final tier list to look and to pop up the rating scale for all of my album reviews. I'm gonna go ahead and give the Weeknd's Hurry Up Tomorrow album just under the perfect category and slide it into the amazing. Definitely love the experience with this album. I'll give it some time to maybe grow on me slightly into that perfect category, but let me know how you guys thought of it and comment down below what you guys think of my tier list and my review, and let me know your favorite songs. Thanks for watching to the end of this video. I have a Twitter, Instagram. Stay up to date with me there. Like, comment, subscribe to both of my channels. join my Discord, and also follow me on Twitch, and I'll catch you guys. Peace.